Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Okay, fantastic. And it looks like we have someone from Australia, so welcome. That is pretty cool. This is awesome. Rob Southwick, I am going to turn it over to you. I'll get your PowerPoint set up here, but would you like to kick it off?
Sure, Sam. Thanks. I appreciate it. While Sam's bringing this up on the screen, let me just give you a little background as to what I'm going to try to do here and my perspective, if you will, for talking today. I'm going to keep this kind of relaxed in a formal approach. I have some thoughts to put down to a PowerPoint. I'll just share these based on our 30 years of experience working as an economist for state fish and wildlife agencies and also for the outdoor trades, for the sport fishing, hunting, and shooting sports industries. We've been getting a lot of phone calls the last couple of weeks and talking about what the effects are of this, and so I'm going to share some of that here. So I'm going to start first by talking about participation and effects on participation and conservation funding, and then I'll wrap it up with a few little general social type of insights and what we might expect will happen going forward. It's going to take just about 10 minutes, and then at that point I'll be quiet because absolutely there's many more ideas and probably some contradictory opinions that might be smarter than mine that we want to hear and discuss as a group. So, okay, Sam, I guess I can start right here on this screen. And do I have control, or do I need you to advance forward? I'll hit this button down.
It's all you.
All right, look at that, it works. Man, technology. All right, so I'm going to start first, as I mentioned, talking about what about the effects of the conservation to our community from what's going on with these COVID-19 restrictions, everything from participation to revenues. The first one that really became apparent is the sudden increase in firearm and ammunition sales. So in the long run, that's good. We're going to have more revenues coming back in to put into state programs and collective programs, whether it's R3 or building more ranges, wildlife management. But what's driving that? That's what I want to talk about here a little bit more. The run in sales, you probably heard about in the news, is being created by uncertainty. People that feel insecure, they're really not sure what's going to come next, and they want to be able to take care of themselves. A lot of this is not, talking to a few of my friends around here, they think, oh, it's just the gun nuts buying more guns. That's not the case here. We've been talking to firearm retailers and other firearm media in the last couple of weeks, and I even shared this on CNN the other night. What's going on is we have a lot of people who are buying their first-time firearm. They're living in communities that may not be the safest community, where they're fearing either the prisoners are being released in a lot of areas, they're fearful of bringing groceries in from their car back up to their apartment or to their home, or people may try to come relieve them of their own toilet paper. It's kind of funny, but it's the fear. So people want to take care of themselves, and it's causing a lot of first-time people to buy firearms who have not done so in the past. What's driving the sales is primarily firearms for personal protection in that case. It's handguns, it's the MSRs or the AR platforms, along with the matching ammunition there. In some areas where there's higher restrictions on buying handguns and so forth, shotgun sales are doing pretty well there. But again, these are first-timers. So we've got an opportunity now in front of us. We have a lot of people who are considered non-traditional firearm owners who are acquiring firearms. Many are frustrated because they're just learning now about waiting periods. They hear from a few retailers about that, about the public still not understanding the process. It's not cash and carry. But these people, say 3 months from now, 6 months from now, are back to normal. Let's get them out to the range. Not only so they use their firearm, but they buy more ammunition. That funds conservation. And we have more advocates. A good opportunity there for creating more advocates for smart, proper firearm ownership and recreational use. So we do have an opportunity to find these people, engage with them, help them understand how to use it, how to possess it safely, and go out and use it to help maintain the conservation funding that we get. Okay, next topic is about fishing participation. We don't have as much data on this one directly. Haven't heard as much back, but we are picking up that people are going out fishing quite a bit more. We're hearing this on marinas, boats out in the water, parking lots, at boat ramps. And we've seen this in many other economic slowdowns, going back to the Great Recession from 2009, for example, fishing license sales went up about 3.5%, which is a huge increase in a single year. It's because people had time on their hands. Now, as people have time on their hands, many people just want to get out of the house, especially if you have kids in the house. And fishing is a great opportunity to do that while maintaining that social distancing. What happens when they're outdoors? Of course, many of our lapsed anglers or people who haven't been fishing a long time are going to come back in and buy licenses, so we should see an increase in license revenues. When it comes to excise taxes, we're going to definitely see an increase in consumable items. These are terminal tackle, fishing line, bait, things that you tend to use up on a per fishing trip basis. We might see a decrease in some of the higher end products, the higher priced reels and combos, marine supplies, but people are still going to go out there and go fishing now when they have more time on their hands. It's what we've seen for every economic downturn going back to the early 70s. We really haven't tracked it for further beyond that. Some cases, I want to get ahead of myself here a little bit. Let me jump ahead. I'll come back to that point in just a second. Jump back to spring turkey hunting, the hunting side of it. We know we're just getting to turkey hunting right now. That's the only hunting season we really have in front of us. It's just opening up down here in southern areas and be going forward. What's going to happen in those areas? Well, my prediction is that a lot of our lapsed spring turkey hunters, people who couldn't get out last year or year before because they're so busy working, and it's just like fishing in a sense, our core consumer tends to be in the trades, blue-collar type of positions, and there's less of that going on now. There's mandatory work shutdowns for a lot of them. They have time on their hands, and we've seen them. They tend to get out and go fishing and go hunting more often. So we think more local spring turkey hunters will get out there. What could happen is out-of-state course licenses will drop. Turkey hunting is one of the more common forms of hunting for people to travel and to try and get their grand slams. And for most states, that non-resident turkey license is the higher revenue generator than a resident license. So we may need to pick up, say, 2 or 3 new turkey hunters, resident turkey hunters to replace those that we're losing from out of state. So the effects on license sales revenues might not be that great. I do think we'll see more people out there, but be more local folks, less state folks out there. So again, people have more time on their hands, especially trades folks, tends to drive fishing and hunting participation up. That's what we've seen in every economic downturn in the past. But this is a little bit different than other past downturns, obviously. It's not just economic, the stay-at-home issues and everything. Not everybody's going to see an increase in their business in the outdoor trade, especially guides, fishing guides, for example, turkey hunting guides. With people not traveling, their services are not as demanded. And then with these closures going on, whether it's boat ramps, city parks, where I live, for example, along the coast, the beaches are being closed and no surf fishing. So I think the early days of the COVID-19 closures before we had these non-essentials and public areas being closed, the increase is probably greater then. Some cases, some places, the participation may be dropping. So if states keep implementing mandatory stay-at-home, the increases that we're predicting will be toned down. If it goes on too long, it could be turned to the negative range. Right now, I don't think that's the case. We'll see what happens. But the next 2 weeks, I think we're still okay in seeing participation increases. Okay, but we do have some opportunities here. Throw a few pictures in there. Some people may recognize the picture. The guy in front there is Jim Douglas in Nebraska, the beautiful lake trout. Some weirdo behind him mocking the boats next to him, him, whatever. But fun pictures, but great opportunity to remind people how fun the outdoors are. And a lot of people have been putting off doing hunter ed because it really is a demand on people's time. For kids, they couldn't go because they had practices and other activities to go to. They have the time now. So my strong recommendation is, I see some states already doing it by the press releases going out, let's really push online opportunities, whether it's online hunter ed, whether it's advanced hunter training, whether it's just improve your skills. Anything we can do online is going to get a second look now that wouldn't have gotten a second look in the past. We really, really need to push that. Okay. Changing topics, and this is my last slide, then I'll go to group discussion. What's happening on the general social front because of the COVID-19 restrictions? Again, questions. So getting the last couple of weeks. The bridge comment back to the hunting and shooting sports side is that with more people wanting to buy firearms and more people actually buying firearms for the first time, and they're asking questions, there's a lot of retailers reporting that, again, people are really irritated and they come in the store and realize they can't just buy it and take it home with them, that it might open the door for discussions about firearm regulation and ownership to our favor. I bet you in the next year and going on permanently beyond, you're going to see a lot more in the way of sanitary habits improvements. For example, you go into a restaurant, nice restaurant in the future, instead of the table being set already when you got there, I bet a lot of places start setting the table when you first sit down, so you know where your silverware and dishes have been, who's been handling it. I would invest in technologies that allow people to process credit cards without having your credit card touched, either waving your cell phone across readers, which is coming out now, that's going to grow, or waving your credit card in front of a reader. Touchless transactions would be the best. Curbside restaurants is growing right now. You see more of that in the future. I think you're going to see a lot more, if anything, in these areas that relate to sanitation. That's kind of a no-brainer. Stock markets, people are asking a lot about that. Just remember, the stock markets always want certainty. They want to put money where it's certain. So the markets fell because people felt more certain putting those monies into safe areas. But now we're starting to learn more about what this COVID is all about, how long this might take. We're starting to see little tick-ups in the market here and there. It's a little higher than the bottom, but it's still wavering, still looking for a little bit more certainty. I think personally it's a good time to buy consumer stocks if you have extra cash, which is not always the case, obviously. When the market does bounce back, it'll come back when the economy comes back, and it will come back. Maybe 2 months from now, everybody's saying late May, it makes sense, but it's not going to be even comeback. Those businesses that deal with travel, conference travel, for example, recreational travel, so it's airlines, it's hotels, it's harder for people to make those plans again and come back. So some areas, especially hospitality, will come back slower. Restaurants should come back well, consumer goods, and so forth. Just about wrapping it up here. As mentioned, people are going online now, so the expectation going forward is that, hey, this is working pretty well. A lot of companies will learn the advantages of people working from home. I think you see more of that in the future. It'll make commuting easier for everybody else. But people are going to expect more. They're going to have more choices online. So state agencies really need to make sure our licensed sales websites are functioning smoothly. It's easy to log into online education, Hunter Ed, whatever it may be, because in the next few years, this is going to accelerate the move to online life versus the way it is now. So look for an acceleration there. And to wrap it up, I bet you, around New Year's, there's going to be a baby boom. What are all these people doing at home? That's happened whenever big blizzards come through and other issues in the past, and it's going to happen next. So I think of Stock and Graco and whoever makes Pampers and so forth there. So on kind of that light note there, Samantha, I'll flip it back to you, and appreciate you all listening to me ramble on a little bit, and I really look forward to any contradictory thoughts or additional thoughts too. Thank you.
Thank you. And usually on the conversation, we'll have a lot more interaction now, guys and ladies. It's nice to look back. I think one thing that separates us that's different from any time before is that we're more prepared to respond digitally and electronically than we ever have. So that point about online life becoming a greater part of society and business, I'm almost watching to see if that's the new standard moving forward, like you shared, Rob. So while we get started, what I'm going to do, and thank you for starting the conversation, I'm going to pull these pods back up because they're a great way to kind of get some conversation going. But just to remind you, if you have a question or a thought, go ahead and raise your hand. I know I did see one. One of the things I wanted to point out there was states are responding differently to the local situations. Rob, we've seen some states close non-resident sales or participation down now because it's a way to spread COVID-19 across borders. Have you seen that happening a lot? And do you think that what's that impact going to have?
Well, we're definitely hearing about it. Again, a lot of the uncertainty. People are canceling trips even when they're not being shut out in fear of that actually happening. That's going to hurt our license revenues, especially the fall hunting revenues. People now might be canceling some of their fall hunting trips. I hope not. It's too early. But for Western states, as you know, non-resident license fees are critical for long-term funding. So that's a concern, and it's important for states to keep reminding their non-residents that, hey, it's, hunting season's not canceled in the fall. It's a great way to social distance. Big question is, can they get there? I would think by August, we'll be back up and running, and airlines will be doing just fine. So still uncertainty. We just keep reminding everybody we're there. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so consistent communication is going to be important. And we asked the question, what might you expect to happen in the coming months? I know you've given us some ideas. Somebody had said it promotes outdoors as safe options, see increased participation, see more individuals outside, increase non-participation in social distancing, but higher volumes at events when this is over. And Rob, that's something you and I had chatted about, right? Like, do we think that the sense of community is going to come back full force? Like the idea of maybe like around 9/11 when everyone was very, very patriotic. What are your thoughts on that? Is it going to be rah-rah community efforts?
Oh, I think it is. And I felt that, just observational one, right before all the travel is shut down, people are much more friendlier in the airports. The attitude that we're all in this together. Same thing that happened after 9/11. I think right now people want to get back together. We're social animals by nature, and we're not allowed to get together in groups. You're going to see a lot of events being rescheduled. I'll see you saying about bonfires out on the beach. Yes, you're going to see a lot of that going forward. Are we ready to take advantage of that? And it could be competitive shoots, could be fishing derbies. People want to get together. They may not be hugging as much as they used to, at least at first. But we're social animals. We can't stop that. The demand is increasing every day. We're stuck at home by ourselves.
Definitely. And Doug, I see you commenting there. Do you want to speak up a second? A big event coming up for August. Do you think you made a comment earlier too, when is the right time? Really think timing is going to be of the essence. Do you want to chat about that and how you guys in Arizona are making that decision?
Well, sure. I'm not sure what we're doing yet. I mean, we're right in the middle of stuff to be able to do it. And most of my events are based on our partners, and our partners are nonprofit organizations, and a lot of those people are taking big hits right now. This is banquet and fundraising time. So, and a lot of those people run small businesses, and I'm not sure what their capacity will be in the next 30, 60 days to do their conservation work that is basically called a hobby, outside of family, the priorities in their lives. So I'm not sure what our capacity is to do that in August. And I'm not sure they know yet either. We're starting to kick around that conversation, but I think it's still too early. We got another 30 days here in Arizona where we're basically, we're supposed to stand down, and that can take a big hit on an organization.
Yeah, and morale too, I think. Rob, has anything hit us so far at home, like with a community sense? I know the status of our nonprofits is a really big issue right now. Has anything like this impacted nonprofits in the past in your experience?
Well, economic uncertainty does, because people start cutting back on their unnecessary expenses. So re-signing up or joining a nonprofit group is often lower importance to them than finding the next roll of toilet paper. So I know it kind of sounds tongue-in-cheek, but it's a serious issue. So yes, right now, along with the guides I mentioned, nonprofits are going to have some concern. As long as people still feel safe, those who are salaried, are still working, they're at home thinking about it, this might be a good time to go and try to get them to renew now while they're still feeling like they have their jobs and income. But it's more of a challenge for them for sure.
Yeah. And I know, Anthony, you're on here. Do you want to speak up on behalf of DU? I see you sharing about the duck distancing. You've been sharing a lot on LinkedIn too.
Sure, I'd be glad to. So at Ducks Unlimited, obviously, as a nonprofit, we were hit very hard when this all came out a few weeks ago. We have about 2,000 events between March and May, and of course the timing of that basically canceled or postponed all of those, and we're looking at literally millions of dollars potentially lost if we're not able to make up those events or reschedule them into the summer. So we know that we're taking a hit. We are, like a lot of nonprofits, trying to find alternative ways to get cash in the door. A lot of that focus is going to be online, getting people to join or renew their membership on our website as opposed to going to an event. We're setting up some online auctions so that people who typically want to get Ducks Unlimited merchandise at their local event, that won't happen this spring for many, but they'll be able to go online and make bids. So that's something new that we're going to be rolling out in a couple weeks. But, what we know is, we can't control the virus. We can't control the ability of our donors to necessarily make gifts right now because they have bigger concerns, and we certainly acknowledge and understand why. But what we can control is our communication. If nothing else, we can make sure that we consistently communicate, that we share a very transparent story about where we are, the impact that we've had to date, how they can continue to support us if they're able to, and then also coming up with some creative ways on social media to keep them engaged. And one of the things that we started about 2 weeks ago was this hashtag duck distancing, whereby we told our supporters to go out, spend this time, go out in nature, whether it's chasing a turkey or going fishing or just, getting out with your kids, going for a walk, to share photos with us on Instagram, use that hashtag. And we've been pretty pleased with the response that we've had, and we're going to keep pressing that over the next couple of weeks, along with some other similar campaigns. So really just doing all that we can to control that communication, keep that flow going, and steward our donors as best we can until we come out on the other side of this.
Yeah, it seems like a commitment to just being transparent is helpful too. That seems to resonate really well. If you look outside our community and the communications that are coming through, a lot of people are just either highlighting how they're contributing, encouraging people to think about others, or trying to just be honest, like you're saying. So I've been looking at that and kind of watching and seeing like how we can also replicate that in our community.
Right.
Rob, as far as, go ahead. Okay, so Rob, as far as messaging and marketing and everything, there's probably some sensitivity that we should keep in mind when we're delivering responses too. And I know we've all kind of acknowledged it. But have we done any kind of research on the impact of marketing campaigns in times of like situations like this in the past? Maybe that's some research we could share out there.
Not directly with our community. I wish we had that. I've seen it in some general marketing research about the importance of sensitivity, which you just mentioned. That is critical. Is that we may be encouraging people to go out and go fishing, go out spring turkey hunting, and some people might resent that, saying, "Listen, I'm barely hanging on. I can't leave my apartment." So we've got to be sensitive to those folks and just acknowledge that not everybody can do it, but those who can, there's a great mental break. But nothing's been done directly in our industry about that, the type of messaging in an unusual time like this.
Yeah, that's just some research. I'll see if I can find anything too, and if I find anything valuable, I'll bring to the community. I'm seeing some other posts. I know we talked about having some energy and wanting to get in connection with people, but it looks like Catherine Boswell, you said you guys are building an expo at home. Could you share a little bit about that? Okay, and if not, that's okay too. You might be on mute. Sometimes that happens with us. And another question I had wanted to ask was if Stephanie, if you're still with us, I know a lot of people are talking about the fishing impact and going local. On the fishing and boating side from Recreational Boating and Fishing Foundation, if there's any resources about, places that are open to lend out rods still or helping people with that, how could we get access to that? Are you still with us?
I am here. This is Stephanie. I would encourage folks, definitely, thank you, to check out our resources on takemefishing.org and on our YouTube channel for how-to type videos and such. As far as messaging, it's pretty challenging right now, and we're trying to figure out our national plans because, as you all are experiencing in your states, it's very different in each state. You have states completely closed to recreational opportunities, and you have states not able to communicate at all, or shut down communications right now, and with the social distancing aspect, it makes everything challenging in how you're messaging. And so we do have on our website, our homepage on the corporate site, some best practices in messaging in terms of COVID response and a position statement. And we do have links to, right now, a page on American Sport Fishing Association's page that does, they have a map that links directly to each one of your state agency pages and what your current messaging is and current situations. So definitely you can check out the takemefishing.org website as well.
And we just posted that link. I know ASA has been, or was it Keep America Fishing you said it was at, right?
American Sport Fishing Association, their website.
Okay. Okay, perfect. We'll find that too. I know each trade association has been great about getting that resource information out there too for their specific partners and members. ATA, ASA, and NSSF and Outdoor Industry Association all have COVID-19 updates on their homepage now on how people are responding. And a lot of information right now is going towards helping keep these businesses in the infrastructure of our communities. The Small Business Association has loans coming out through that latest care package. There's a lot of content there. So people are really trying to make sure that the people who sell our product and like are kind of that local face of our community, if they're not dealing with our agencies and NGOs, are still there once this is over. So definitely check out some of that information because I know that that's been a huge kind of focus that's evolved in the last couple of days. And Rob, like in looking back, have we seen, like say 9/11 or even the Great Recession, did we see a shrink in the number of retailers and range owners and just fishing shop owners? Was that an impact that we witnessed?
No, actually, well, 2 points here. The fishing side has some other issues of big box stores competing with little box stores and little stores, and shoving them out of business for a bit. But no, it really wouldn't lose a whole lot there. On the hunting shooting side, we gained a lot. Starting back then in the Great Recession, 2008, 2009, at the same time we had a big boom in firearm ownership in long run. And we had major expansion of capacity when it comes to shooting ranges and shooting lanes. And back to the fishing one, we saw the big increase in the number of people fishing. And that's actually, you don't mind me jumping down a rabbit hole real quick. The increase in 2008, 2009 during the recession was really fortuitous on the fishing side because a lot of people had time on their hands. A lot of people started doing staycations. They were uncertain about their income. They wanted to get back to the basics, and fishing was there. A lot of them had fishing experience. A lot of them had friends that had fishing experience that took them out. But what happened, I think, back at that time is that's when states, RBFF was really ramping up the marketing efforts to get people in the outdoors. States were ramping up their efforts. So a lot of resources were there to suddenly support all these people wanting to get in. I really don't think we would have seen that huge increase in license sales if we didn't have all these educational support and outreach programs in place. Now we're seeing a big increase in the types of programs the last few years for hunting and shooting sports. We have a lot of people out there buying their first-time firearms. We really need to connect the two and see if we can have this sustained growth and participation now, like we saw back with sport fishing 2009 in that time period. So I think states right now, you're in a rare position that you weren't in 10 years ago. Let's see if we can really put all this work we've done so far, put it to work and see some gains. So thanks for that.
Yeah, and we actually, we had a conversation with Zach Snow just yesterday talking about how do we take those first-time target shooters, first-time gun buyers now, and roll them out. And they're specifically looking at with state fish and wildlife agencies as well, too. So in the next couple of weeks from the council and the topics moving forward, we won't lose track of COVID-19, but we do know that's going to be an opportunity. So next week we'll have a webinar on shooting sports, and then the week after we'll have some of our state agencies highlight how they're building relationships with our target shooting customers, because we see that as a forefront where we can go down. Catherine, I think you're here now. Or go ahead, Rob.
One quick thing, then jump to Catherine. I see Joanne just posted some great information on the messages they have for social media for phishing, for RBFF. Absolutely. Also, NSSF, we completed some research for them recently about messages and images to use to attract these first-time firearm owners, first-time buyers. That information is available, too, from the NSSF research pages, or people can shoot a note to me. But, there's a lot of good information that's readily available now that we should put to work to take advantage of the situation of people wanting to come join our ranks.
Definitely. And Catherine from Wyoming, can you share about your outdoor expo going digital?
Sure. Thanks, Samantha. So our outdoor expo is typically in early May, and it has a wide variety of activities for kids and adults, and recognizing that our governor has asked us all to stay home. And so we developed what we're calling Expo at Home. First off, our target is not teachers, because in talking to teachers, we know that they have enough to do already right now. So our target is families and parents with kids that are stuck at home and need something for them to do. So there is a website. It will be available later. It's called WyomingExpo.org. WyomingExpo.org. And what we've done is we've curated a bunch of our content that we've already had from our YouTube channel, from some of our newsletters and publications on our website, into subject areas that folks can just kind of get lost on, go down a rabbit hole. There is also a social component to it. We'll be rolling that out this afternoon. There will be some Facebook Live events. We did a couple trial runs in the last week. You can see one on Friday and then one on yesterday or Monday with a partner to see how that would work using Zoom technology. We've gotten great engagement. We've had, when people join, they stay, and so that's been kind of fun. And then I guess the challenges of all of this, one is that some of our content is older that we've been trying to curate on there, and so things like employees have left or practices and policies have changed. So we're trying to quick update those with little bubbles on the PDF that says, Travis Trimble is now the stocking coordinator or whatever. And then also asking for some grace from our employees in that trial. This is very much a fixing the car when running. We'll be updating the website on Tuesdays. I think it's a great opportunity for us to support our partners that have been so wonderful in supporting Expo. So we are putting some of their content on our website. We are also have done a Facebook Live with a partner using Zoom, and that seemed to work really well. So we're just trying to get it all figured out, but you can check out WyomingExpo.org later on today and sort of see the first iteration.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I like the term grace as well in fixing a car while it's running. Those are definitely key things to keep in mind, is that we're evolving as we go. And I know John Frampton, our boss, had texted me a great question, Rob, to bring up with you. We're hearing that the government has allowed a delay for industry paying excise taxes for 3 months, both for DJ and TR. What impacts might this have? Do you have any idea about that? Like, just some thoughts on it? It's just delaying it. It's not canceling it. It's just delaying it. But what might that cause for us in our situation?
I saw that. I thought it have a very, very minor impact. The only thing that it might impact is that the funds being held in Treasury and earning a little bit of interest for 2 months. They'll be held by the manufacturer shipping in the product. But it's too early in the year. But the funds are going to be collected from now until the end of the year, fiscal year, and then they're distributed to the states. So by then, they'll be collecting the funds again. At this point, I don't see any impact at all on the states.
Okay, cool. And another kind of idea is that while people are going to fish local, we're seeing that some places are closing boat ramps because of the large gatherings on the water. We didn't really talk about the boating industry as much. What do you think might happen there?
That's interesting because some states are embracing fishing as a way of people to maintain their sanity and encouraging people to go out and go fishing. I know it's probably going against, I guess, not making Maine and West Virginia happy that the governors are declaring no-cost fishing licenses at this point, but like the state of Washington shut it down. So it's hit or miss. I think it's a knee-jerk, in my opinion, it's a knee-jerk hysterical reaction to shut down all fishing. It should be more on a case-by-case basis. I believe it might have been in Minnesota, one of those upper Great Lakes states that were shutting down places selectively where there was crowding issues. That makes more sense. But if that keeps happening, if people are still uncertain and government officials feel like they need to keep restricting, doing more, we're going to see more closures that's going to harm us. So the more that we can do to keep promoting fishing and the outdoors as a relief, as a help, as an antidote, if you will, to the craziness that comes from being shut in, the better off we are. We need to keep promoting the advantages of fishing to help reduce the number of closures and only have closures when they're absolutely needed.
Yeah, I've definitely seen, I think it was American Sport Fishing Association or Keep America Fishing Foundation, one of the two, submitted letters to every state governor highlighting exactly that. I think it was just on the Outdoor Wire or something that they had gone after that route because it is like a mixed bag in response across the states. And a lot of people have reached out kind of looking for recommendations at a national level and how we can support, state-by-state decisions. But the thing to keep in mind is that this is a disease, it's a pandemic, and so it's not going to hit everywhere at the same rate at the same time. So as the research evolves with the disease and everything, I think we're going to see like this local resource evolve, and we're not going to be able to have just like a blanket statement nationally. It's going to be state by state, even community by community. So we're really going to have to be flexible to respond to it as it kind of evolves, I think. Which I don't know, in your experience, is this something that we've experienced before? I mean, like 9/11, the Great Recession, that was all kind of a blanket impact across the country. Whereas this is different, I think.
Oh, definitely different. This should be more of a local decision when an area might be safe or unsafe to allow public access. Yeah, 9/11 is a national issue, and there are national politicians, governors should have more of a say. But my opinion is this needs to be more of a local issue, and then again, we as the experts in fishing and the outdoors keep pushing that message, then maybe that thought will get into the discussion rooms when I'm talking about further closures. But yeah, this is very unprecedented given it's a local issue versus a national issue.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the responses on one of the columns. It says, what changes has your organization made in light of COVID-19? And it says, like, for instance, one of those states has closed all manned ranges, but they haven't closed the unmanned ranges. So there is some things within our control that we can, mitigate the impact, but still keep open for business. So
it'll be easier at the western states, of course, who have more public lands and more areas to go out on your own where you can be distanced. It's going to be tougher in the eastern states where you have to go to organized ranges and crowding is more the norm, if you will. So we understand that the effects and what can happen is going to vary state by state.
Definitely. And I'm looking, so I'm seeing some comments come in, and I'm wondering, Marilyn Bentz, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah. Okay, you had reached out through the R3 community just about some opportunity. I know you're from the National Bow Hunter Education Foundation. You had some ideas just on like how we might respond to this that's different than perhaps in the past. I didn't know if you wanted to share a little bit on that.
Well, we have online courses, but some of them involve taking a field day as well as doing online coursework. So one of the things we're trying to encourage states to offer to people that perhaps have already taken the online coursework is to go ahead and offer certification without the field work. And I think as long as the states are up front and say, look, this is a temporary wave of some of the restrictions, I think people will really respond to that. And we're just trying to work with each state one-on-one and look at their situation and decide what might be the best option for them. But I definitely agree, and I'm happy to see that people recognize that I think our population is going to want to stay close to home. We're going to be looking at activities such as hunting and fishing that basically we can get to that activity within 20 minutes maybe of our house and take our family, our kids with us. And I'm glad that states recognize that now that is probably what people are going to choose to do. And I'm just concerned that even when all the restrictions have been lifted, that people are not going to want to go sit in a large hunter ed class or even a field day that maybe has 20 people in attendance. I don't think people are going to want to do that. So we're going to have to look at these options to get people outdoors and just look at all these options for, if you want to think of it as the next 12 months.
Yeah, you think their expectations, I guess, so the experience we're having right now where we've adapted and everything is digital now, going back away from that in the future might be a no-go. I mean, we've already been trying to catch up to their expectations. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone's Zoom meeting right now. You see all the jokes going around about expectations of, top up only and stuff like that and making sure you look good. It's not just a conference call anymore. So, I mean, it's definitely something that we're going to have to grapple with. And across the board with all the comments coming in and stuff, there is a tinge of that, people thinking about it. And the other side of it, too, with all the comments coming in and stuff, is that the connection, we might have missed it, is the connection that people are looking to connect with their local food and resources. We talked about it a little bit, and Rob, maybe you touched on it a little bit too, but the interest of the locavores or the preppers or the connection to food. Rob, have we seen that at any higher stake, maybe like during the recession previously?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that happened?
It definitely. You see more when economic times are tough. Reloading goes up. The prepper type materials go up. Interest in how to can and preserve your own food and related to sales increases. So I'm sure that's happening now. But the biggest thing pushing it now is the first timers. But yes, what you say is true.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of content available online too. A lot of our partners, NWTF just put out that new course with Calcami, and QDMA has a deer hunting course. So that's already coming out digitally, so that's good to see. Phil Sang, I see a comment here, and I'm wondering what you're thinking. You said you think as the number of infections climb, we will see more and more knee-jerk closures at broader and broader levels. Can you just kind of expand your concept on that? If you're still called in. I tried to message you ahead to say we were going to call you. Okay. And if you have to call in or you're on mute, just let me know. Drop us a line and we'll ask you about that. But in general, I'm thinking about the states that are serving as the epicenters right now. New York, D.C., just over Sunday to Monday, Virginia put out a delay in activity till June 10th, which is the furthest out that we've seen anywhere. So I guess as, cases emerge and we see that rate go up and the R impact factor and everything, it's going to be a huge thing to watch. But I don't know. Okay, Phil, you're on. You want to speak up?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, sorry. I feel like as politicians, leaders at all levels are going to get more and more pressure. I think we're just seeing the beginnings, according to the models, of number of infections and deaths. And so as that climbs, I think there's going to be continuing pressure. We've seen already a lot of knee-jerk reaction, but I think we've just seen the beginning of it. And I feel like as a way of showing they're doing something, we're going to see these broader and broader closures. We're just going to close all the boat ramps on the Ohio River, whatever. So while I totally agree with Rob that it should be done case by case, that's what makes sense, that's what's logical, I fear that it's not going to be that way. I fear that it's going to be very reactionary just as cases increase. I know it hits me personally because I've got an annual Detroit River walleye trip that's coming up here in a couple of weeks, and talking with my buddies about, is it going to happen? And the one guy who lives there is saying that they're already threatening to close those ramps just because people aren't practicing social distancing. And typically you'll have, 4 or 5 people on a boat all packed together. And if it's one family that lives together, that's one thing. But if it's not, that's something else. And so I just feel like that's going to start happening in a broad way. I fear that anyway.
Yeah, and it seems, I know Gordon made a comment that there is a limited arena of influence within the purview of state fish and wildlife agencies. But I think the messaging thing right now, and especially the power of a unified message perhaps, of promotion, and we're seeing our trade partners doing that. We're putting content out, RBFF is too. Maybe a dedicated application of that, of why, like the social distancing thing. I know Ducks, has that infographic that shows 3 ducks, I think, to separate the 6 feet apart. Maybe we need to think about how we're putting that message out there and being proactive to encourage our participants and new people who are joining us who might not be used to that, to try to keep it open as much as possible. That's definitely something we can control, what we put out there to people, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I think communication is going to play a huge role in all of this, both for good and ill. So whatever role we all can play in making it the good side is super important. But yeah, and I think a couple people have made the comment about let's just focus on the things we can control, and that's good advice. And there will be things that are going to come down the hall, so to speak. They're just going to be beyond our control, and that is what it is. But to the degree we can be proactive about getting ahead of the fact that this is great activities that people can do in the time that they have, and that if it's done right, done well, it can be without adding to the problem, and we need to try to push those messages as best we can.
For sure. And now I'm seeing from Brad Bortner, who's newer to the community, that there is an announcement that hunting and fishing seasons are closed until 2021. I have not seen that. If there is something out there like that, we probably need to let our state partners know, especially because that's something we need to get ahead of. I've seen the opposite, where agencies, or people have been sharing content that says that season's open because agencies are shut down. So, definitely some communication tactics on that side of it too. And I know we're heading up here against the hour mark. We got about 5 more minutes. I do see one thing here that's kind of forward-looking, and I really wanted to draw attention to it. It says, are we prepared with any human dimension surveys to inquire if this concept of self-sufficiency or any other terms have changed? And that's a pretty great point. I think, Rob, in a couple of the different conversations we've had throughout the last hour, we said if we knew, we are fortunate that we have a lot more technology and survey methods at our disposal now. Is there anything we can be doing to look forward so that we can evaluate and, continue to evolve? So say if COVID-19 becomes more of a common thing, is there stuff we can be looking for to measure and evaluate so that we can get better at this each time? What are your thoughts on that, Rob?
Well, I hope we certainly do evaluate, maybe not in a formal sense, but all of our efforts now to communicate the opportunities to get outdoors. They'll look back 3 months, 6 months from now and see, do we have a response? States now have better licensed data tracking systems than they had 10 years ago. We're much better off. Imagine this happened 10 or 15 years ago when we didn't have smartphones and all these online type of software like we're using right now, if it's called. Imagine how difficult it would be and how much greater the economic hit would have been from these closures if we couldn't function so well from home like we're doing now. But we need to not look just at that, but also our communication efforts. And then in the fall, we need to really look back and say, hey, is participation down? And talk to our customers to find out why. Did they cancel their trips now during the maybe sometimes overhyped concerns that Phil was talking about? And so we're smarter next time and document this and get this information out to the decision makers. I'm sure we will. We're scientists by nature in our community, but let's not forget to use all this information, resources we have to go back and evaluate 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, take these lessons and be ready next time, because the COVID-19 could rebound again next year. We never know.
Yeah, and that's
Samantha,
what
could I add to that?
into. Actually, absolutely. Go ahead.
This is Phil saying again, I think something else we need to be looking out for is there's going to be a real, what do I want to say, a tendency for all of us to throw whatever results we want in the bucket of, well, that was just because of COVID, right? So that just brings out all the more need for good, solid, standardized ways of surveying, asking our customers, asking our constituents why they did what they did, because it's going to be easy. Oh, license sales are down. That's just because of COVID. And it may be exactly right, or it may not be. And so we just need to try to make sure that we do that in a systematic, thoughtful way as we go forward.
Fully agree.
I agree 100%. Yeah, that is fully there. And, there is one state I know of. I don't know if other states are out there, but Mike Hobson of Texas Parks and Wildlife with our license system, when Hurricane, I think it was Harvey, hit, he knew exactly how many licenses he had already lost because of that and because of their data systems and how they were set up and stuff. So if we have any license managers on here, if we have any communicators on here, check that out and start reporting back and seeing what real time's happening. Look back where you were supposed to be this point last year and see what's happening, because Mike was really able to do that. And I'll see if we can write an article or something on how he did it and try to get that to the community as well too. It was super helpful for them just to know in real time where they work. And also I think they were able to put some of that work or some of that insight into work by putting some communications efforts out there. So I'll get with him and try to get some examples so that maybe we can share that with the community as well too. That responsive ability to say local communities here, here's the resources, don't forget you can do that. We have that capability now because of our advancement as agencies and everything. So let's try to use that to our advantage. All right, well, it's about 2:58. Yes, Kristen.
Hey, this is Kristen. I just want to point out for the people who are on the call but not necessarily on the screen share and reading the chat, that states closing down hunting and fishing is for the most part an April Fool's joke. I know we addressed that in the chat, but there may be some people not reading that, so I didn't want to send everybody into panic. It looks like Daryl from Australia says that they are shut down to hunting and fishing, which is really unfortunate, but again, that's not in the U.S., so if you're panicking, you can stop. It's an April Fool's joke.
Got it. And thanks to Brad for highlighting it. And Catherine and Lance are sharing news releases to combat that right there. So great examples to help get ahead of that too. Thank you guys for sharing that. And thanks for calling that out, Kristen. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. Well, Rob, would you like to give any final words? It's been a fantastic conversation here for great engagement from a multiple number of speakers. So is there anything you'd like to share or any last resources that we can put out there?
No, just thank you for the opportunity to share, and just remind everybody that there are major resources available, as said, from the council, from RBFF. Let's get the word out there about the advantages of hunting and fishing and target shooting so we can prevent some of these knee-jerk hysterical closures, keep things where they are, may roll back a little bit, and then if that happens, we may have this great opportunity to recruit new customers and come out of here with that silver lining. So thanks for the opportunity, and best of luck to everybody, and stay healthy.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you, Rob, for taking the time to put this together. We greatly appreciate it. I just put Kristen in my emails here. Because of the amount that we've covered, we probably haven't gotten all the resources you wanted to see. So if there's something we missed, email us or use your R3 community to your advantage, and we'll try to track down whatever you guys need to respond quickly and hopefully mitigate the impact that this is going to have to our natural resources. So thanks for joining us. We really appreciate your time. For your reference, we will have 2 more events in the next 2 weeks. On Wednesday, April 8th, we will host a webinar with Ben Burka from Scholastic Shooting Sports Foundation, talking about online engagement in a new training program for his shooting sports coaches. And then on April 8th, we're going to host 2 different State Fish and Wildlife Agency employees for a coffee hour, more formal or less formal setting like this conversation, where we can talk about engaging target shooters as a customer. We have a ton of new people out there that are trying to learn how to shoot guns and buying them for the first time. What can we do to bring them into our ranks and connect them to the conservation message? So those are coming up. They'll all be on Wednesdays at 2. If you have any questions, drop us a line and we'll try to help you guys out. So thanks for joining us. We'll